Ladies and gentlemen, it's match day. Good morning everybody and welcome back to the Celtic Ways morning briefing. It is Wednesday the 24th of September. Crvena Zvezda versus Celtic, otherwise known as Red Star Belgrade to us in Scotland probably. Guys, my name is Graeme McGarry. It's good to see you all. Thank you so much to everybody in the comments for joining us already. This morning I'm joined by Tony, who's in Scotland, and Graeme McGarry, who has been in place for the past couple of days in Belgrade. First of all, I'll come to you, Tony. How are you doing this morning?
I'm glad you pronounced her name, Ryan. I'll just stick to the old-fashioned Red Star. Not a bit of a traditionalist that way. But yeah, I'm okay. A bit of me's a bit deflated because I know Brendan Rodgers said the Champions League is gone and Celtic have to focus on this, but I'm still smarting over what could have been, and I'm trying to get myself up for it and get behind the team and get behind the European competition that they're in. But I have to say I'm struggling a bit, but hey, it's up to the team to lift us all as well by putting in a performance. But I'll try and be a bit more optimistic as the show goes on.
Well, Brendan Rodgers said last night we have to move on. Everybody has to move on from the Champions League. It's the Europa League, and that's where Celtic are playing tonight. Graeme, you're in Belgrade at the moment. You've been there since, I believe, a couple of days ago. Graeme, how's it going? How are things over there? And are you looking forward to tonight's game?
Yeah, it's going great, mate. Yeah, it's lovely over here. It's a wee bit warm for the likes of me. If anyone was on yesterday, you'll see in the morning briefing I was very white, and then by the right time I was kind of scarlet. So yeah, it's about 30 degrees over here. So that'll be a big test for the players. I actually met Cameron Carter-Vickers after the press conference last night. I think he was in doing a bit of club media, and he was saying, "Has it been like this all day?" I said, "Aye, it's sweltering." So it does get a wee bit cooler around about kick-off time, so hopefully it's not too bad for the players. But yeah, it's I wouldn't say there's too much of a buzz about the game. You know, I've seen pockets of Celtic fans here and there, but the locals here are just as cheesed off with their team as Celtic fans appear to be with theirs. So it's a kind of really, really strange dynamic for the game tonight. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. 40,000 home fans and a couple of thousand Celtic, according to the officials last night. So it should be a good occasion, even though there's not too much sort of build-up to it at home.
Yeah, absolutely. I was speaking to somebody last night about what to expect from Red Star Belgrade tonight and the mood around the club at the moment, and they said very similar to what you've just said. Before we get started and getting into the nitty-gritty of everything Europa League related, press conference related as well, I want to give a massive shout out to our sponsors for today's video and all of our videos for the foreseeable future. It's Simply Furniture. We're sponsored by them. They're located in Hillington, Glasgow. It's Simply Furniture is an independent brand dedicated to bringing luxury and contemporary style into homes across the UK. With over a decade of experience in furniture retail, they meticulously source only the finest pieces curated for quality, comfort and timeless design. From elegant sofas to statement dining sets, their hand-picked collections offer exceptional value without compromising on style. Their dedicated team ensures your furniture is delivered with care right to your doorstep. And if you want to see the beauty up close, visit our stunning showroom and mention the Celtic Way for a special in-store discount, and all of those links will be in the description. Tony, I know that both of you will be well aware of what Brendan Rodgers said in the press conference last night, but Tony, I'll come to you first. What did you make of the press conference? I know you were doing the Q&A for the website. It was Brendan Rodgers and Benjamin Negrin who faced the media in Belgrade, Serbia's capital. What did you make of what Brendan Rodgers and Benjamin Negrin had to say ahead of the big game tonight?
I think Brendan Rodgers is like myself. I think he would prefer to be in the big competition. They're not, so he's going to embrace this competition. And then I think he was asked questions about Seville and Celtic making a dent in the competition, and he gave an optimistic answer as possible. I think it's a tall order for Celtic to go all the way, but the noises were, Graeme was at Firhill on Sunday as well. Sebastian Tinekti spoke about going on a run deep into the latter stages of the competition. Everybody says that talk is cheap. The old Glasgow saying everybody's familiar with, it's no saying it, it's doing it. Well, that's the challenge for Celtic, to go out there, and I caveated Sunday with the words to you, Ryan, it's Celtic away in Europe. Celtic fans have longed for a performance worthy of the name where they actually get a result. They got it in the Champions League last year against Bayern Munich where they got a performance, but at the end of the day they still didn't get a result. Fed up with hard luck stories, I want Celtic to actually go out and win a meaningful away game in Europe And this calibre of opposition is pretty good. You know, they've started their season brightly, won 7 out of 7, scored 30 goals, conceded 5. This is a ramp-up in opposition, and it might well feel like a Champions League kind of game, because both sides, as Graeme said there, are equally hurting at not making the Champions League proper. So this would be a decent scalp, but, you know, I just hope that Celtic can rise to the occasion and that the manager and the players kind of come through on the statements that they're making, that they're going to embrace the competition and go for it.
Yeah, that's got to be the aim. Graeme, I know you were present at both press conferences, both for Red Star Belgrade's and Celtic's. What was the mood about the place? What was Brendan Rodgers' mood? Maybe what was the mood about the opposition manager and the player? How are they feeling ahead of tonight's game? Are they feeling confident that they can get a result against Celtic? Are they understanding that they're up against a good side, similarly to what Celtic are with Red Star Belgrade?
Yeah, it was a really interesting dynamic at the press conference last night, Ryan, because Brendan seemed very relaxed at the Celtic press conference and a lot more positive than he has been of late. Certainly, I think, as Tony said there, he's trying to draw a line under everything that happened in the summer. He's had his say on it. Everyone knows where he stands, and it's time for him to focus on this tournament and moving on. But the Red Star press conference, the manager, he certainly was under a bit more pressure from the local journalists. It was him that was being questioned for the exit to Paphos. And certainly there was a bit of confidence about the local media that Red Star should be winning this game. And the manager of Red Star was saying, you know, you guys can write what you want, but this is a team that's built for the Champions League that we're playing against here, Celtic. Now, I can understand if Celtic fans are kind of sniggering at it after the summer transfer window business, but that is where Celtic want to be. And he was very complimentary about Celtic and the sort of level of performance that he's expecting from them tonight. So I think there's a bit of pressure on Red Star here tonight, more so than Celtic. I know that the narrative around Celtic at the moment has been quite doom and gloom, and a lot of the kind of off-field stuff has overshadowed what's going on in the pitch. But certainly I think Celtic come into this, certainly in camp, in a more positive frame of mind than Red Star do. And they certainly seem refreshed, refocused. Brendan Rodgers certainly does anyway. And I think if Celtic can get a good start in this game and get that 40,000 crowd, everyone's talking about how intimidating that can be. I think if they can get them on their back, there's a real chance for Celtic here tonight. And I think they lost 2-1 to Paphos, didn't they, in the home leg of that tie. So, you know, as much as it's an intimidating arena, I think there's a real chance for Celtic to do something tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to bring in those comments. Sorry, Tony, what were you saying?
I was just going to ask Graeme, do you feel that was a wee bit of reverse psychology as well, and a bit of mind games and trying to heap pressure on Celtic, saying they're a big team, they're a big Champions League team, and kind of ease the pressure on his own troops? Because, I mean, they just won the derby against Partizan on Saturday, and I know they are hurting as well from their Champions League exit, as you say, to Paphos. So I think he's at it a wee bit there, just to try to deflect pressure. Just to bring up those comments that you were talking about, Tony, just so that everybody has context on what Vladan Milivojevic said. Celtic have better qualities than Kairat. He was kind of not overlooking the Kairat result, but he was saying that it's a result that probably shouldn't have happened. Doesn't happen 9 times out of 10. Celtic have better qualities than Kairat. I don't want to say anything bad against the Kairat team, but those were not the right parameters. Celtic is a great team that's playing well in their own league. I truly believe that Celtic is an exceptionally good team with a great coach who's been working for a long time in the English Premier League. He's a great strategist and coach. You can write what you want, but Celtic is a team that was made for participation in the Champions League. They're exceptionally dominant and strong. Timmy Elsnik then added, the Slovenian midfielder. Celtic are a big team who are dominant in our league, and we are aware that we have a difficult opponent. However, we are playing in our home ground, and it doesn't matter how they line up, as we will be prepared. We're aware that Scottish teams are really physical, and we have to be equal in that regard. However, we have our own experienced players who can win a game at any moment. Celtic should always think about us, and we have to believe that we can play in the proper way. So just letting you back in there, Graeme, those were the comments from the manager and the player. They seem as if they understand that this is a big game between two good sides tonight, but like you said, there is that pressure on the home side to come out and get a result, especially at home on match day 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm not sure if it was reverse psychology. I'm not sure those comments were aimed at Celtic per se. I think it was more him trying to protect himself and sort of manage expectations. I think he was saying, right, lads, this, it's not as if it's Kairat Almaty at the end of the day that's turning up. It is Celtic. Even though they had that poor result, this is still a really good team with a top level manager. And I know, listen, a Celtic performance away from home, as Tony touched on there, is long overdue. I think I'm right in saying Brendan Rodgers has only won 5 of 30 away games as a manager in Europe. And I think Celtic haven't won since 2021 against Ferencvaros away from home. Would that be right? And I was there, so I can't believe that was 4 years ago. So I think, even though, as I say, there's a bit of apathy around this, there's a real opportunity, I think, for Celtic to go out and make a kind of a statement tonight. And really, if they want to get people involved in this competition and get the fans up for it, this is the night to show that they're actually up for it. All the kind of words beforehand are great, and it's great to hear that the players are up for it and the manager's really going to have a go at this tournament, but they need to prove it on the pitch as well. I think that's the only thing that will really get the fans on board with this tournament.
Yeah, just to bring in some comments from Brendan Rodgers last night, let me just bring them up. I think both clubs actually missed out on the final qualification games and wanted to be in that, but after the initial disappointment, we're really looking forward to this competition. It's one of the 8 games that we have. There are some great teams, historical teams, and it's a big challenge for us to be in it. So we're over that disappointment and we're now really focused on doing well in this competition. The supporters will have their focus on the football. That's one of the great things about the support. They really do get behind the team and support the team. There are obviously other factors going on at the moment, and I really hope that at some point in the future we can all come back together. But as I said many times, my job is to really concentrate on the players and the team and us performing well, and we'll get that support. Tony, even though Graeme has said he hasn't seen a lot of Celtic fans around, there's no doubt that there'll be Celtic supporters there tonight to cheer on the team, and that support is going to be so important in a hostile atmosphere that the Red Stars Stadium will bring this evening. How important are they going to be tonight off the pitch to the players on the pitch?
I mean, yeah, they will travel in numbers and they'll give them the back, and a lot of them will probably be doing the day trip kind of thing. But you fear for this team. I was interested to hear the Belgrade player, the Red Star Belgrade player, say that that Scottish teams are traditionally physical. You clearly don't watch Celtic, and I think the midfield is a big problem for Celtic, because they're certainly not physical. They're football players, and if they're physical at all, they could cause Celtic problems. So that's a concern right away, because I'm not disputing that the Celtic midfield 3 are wonderfully technically gifted footballers, but you need a wee bit more when you play in Europe. You need a wee bit more nous, we need to be very streetwise, and I just worry about that side of the game. You know me, I've been crying out for physical players for a long time on this pod, and Celtic haven't managed to sign the kind of physicality that I want, especially for competitions like this and going to places like Serbia. So I think if they use a bit of brute force and strength, then they could get a bit of joy. I know he's 34 or mid-30s, but Arnautovic is still someone who, can kick it, as they say. And I'd be surprised, and I won't be surprised to see them use him as a kind of battering ram up front and test Celtic early doors and see what happens. But the problem with Celtic is whenever they've gone away, mentioned this a few times as well, when they concede, they tend to concede in clusters, don't they? And don't give themselves a chance to get a foothold in a lot of away European games. We all know the European stats, they don't make for good reading. And you just hope that at some point that balance has to be redressed. I would love to see Celtic, scrape that 1-0 away when, defend. They did well in Atalanta last year in Bergamo, drew 0-0, but the game near the end was there for the taking. And I also felt that the game in the Allianz Arena was there for the taking as well.
Zagreb as well.
Yeah, Zagreb. Well, Zagreb was they should have won that, and obviously in Kazakhstan. So I'm fed up with those kind of, let's go and win a game like that where it is possibly on a knife edge or you are holding your own. Go and win it and make it meaningful. But you just find it hard to see where that win's coming from.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Yesterday, now I put the link in the description, but yesterday, it's published today, but I did it yesterday. I was speaking to a Serbian football expert, Vladimir Novakovic, who is a Red Star Belgrade fan, but he also he has covered Serbian football for the past 20 years. So I thought he was a pretty good person to talk about tonight's opponents, and he was talking about the potential players to look out for. I did ask about Marko Arnautovic because he's the one player that stood out in terms of when you look at the squad list. Most people will have heard of him, former Stoke City, Inter Milan and West Ham, striker, quite versatile player, although he's getting on a little bit. I think he's 35, 36 years old. Tony, I know you said he was 34, actually I think he's a little bit older than that, but I would need to double check once again. He's certainly advancing in years is what I'm trying to say. It seems as if when looking at their team, the other day when I was doing a bit of preparation for this interview, they've got a standout goal scorer in Alexander Katai, who's got 12 goals in all competitions this season. But the Serbian football expert, Vladimir, gave me a really interesting answer when it came to talking about Katai. He said he's a club legend and he's been with the club for nearly a decade now. However, he is very old and his body is old as well. Katai is mainly used in domestic games when there is little intensity. Despite his nickname translating to magical, do not expect him to play a huge role in European games. As for Marko Arnautovic, the trouble with him is that he has not played a lot of minutes with his new team because he only started at the beginning of August and has barely played, especially starting games. The club now have a really interesting dynamic between him and fellow forward Bruno Duarte, who can play as a striking duo, though we've not seen that yet. Sherif Njai, who left a couple of weeks ago for Samsunspor in Turkey, would have been one of the focal points up front for the side, but his exit is one of the huge problems that Crvena Zvezda currently have. Graeme, it seems as if there's a lot of rotation in that forward area. The comments about Kata, 12 goals, but he doesn't really play in those big European games. It would seem as if that's maybe one of the weak points for Red Star at this moment, and it remains to be seen who will start up front. But is this maybe an area that Celtic can profit from, the fact that they don't have a focal point up top, and they could bring some firepower of their own in Belgrade tonight?
Yeah, perhaps. But I think if you look at Red Star's start to the season in the league, scoring goals hasn't really been a problem. They've scored 30 in 7 games. So even if it's not coming from their strikers, they've definitely got a cutting edge there. You can't say that they don't. But obviously translating that into a European stage might be something else entirely. And even though Celtic have had a lot of personnel issues and injuries and things like that at the back, the defence has actually been pretty good at the start of this season for Celtic. So I'm actually expecting Celtic to come here, and I think Atalanta is the blueprint, isn't it? That's the kind of moment last season where Celtic sort of turned a page on their travels, and I think, especially at the start of this game, that's got to be the main focus for Celtic, is being strong, solid, and robust, and keeping them out. Because I think if they lose an early goal, as Tony said there, it could very quickly go south. I've been at numerous of these games abroad with Celtic, and it can get away from you very quickly, So I just think, first and foremost, they've got to be kind of pragmatic and defend well. I think Red Star are a dangerous team, and I think Celtic are going to be up against it in those early stages. But I really like the manager's confidence that he showed in Colby Donovan last night when he was talking about him. I thought he spoke really well about the young man. I think he's done really well, Colby Donovan. I'd be confident with the back four that they can put up a good performance tonight and hopefully give Celtic a base to then go and attack the game. It's interesting, if I could just ask you guys your thoughts on this. We were talking last night about the midfield area and what you do in there. I thought Tony talking about physicality. I would have Arnie Engels in there. Now I know Engels is his critics, and he doesn't always use his physicality so well, but I think he's got an athleticism that could be really useful in Europe, and I think his best games for Celtic have come in European competition. So I know it then gives you a problem. You've got a problem on the right hand side as well, and I don't think Nygren playing there in the Almaty game worked, but I just think you've got to find a way to get Engels into this midfield.
I think Engels is a must for me. Sorry, Ryan. I genuinely do. You've got height presence alone as well, but physicality. Yeah. You took the words out of my mouth. I thought some of his best performances last season were in the Champions League stage. So, he's been there, seen it and done it in terms of that calibre of match. and can step up to the plate and put in a good performance. So yeah, I'm a fan of bringing Engels back in. Hopefully the manager sees it that way too. Because as I said before, I used the word streetwise. You're going to have to be streetwise tonight. This is a team that are playing at home, and they're going to use. Can I call their crowd partisan? As in the sense, be behind them. Ryan shaking his head there. See what I did?
Don't let them hear you saying that, Tony. My God.
Partisan with an S, Ryan, not a Z. So, and they will make it intimidating. But Celtic players have played in that kind of atmospheres before. They play in front of the yellow wall. They play in Atalanta. They've gone to the Allianz arenas, and they play at Celtic Park as well. So, when people talk about atmospheres and stuff like that, the players say it themselves. They hear it for about 5 minutes, and then they concentrate on the job at hand. Graeme touched on it there. This is a night, an Atlanta-esque night, where you need to be fully concentrated, every individual on the job that they're doing. First and foremost, not conceding early and giving yourself a platform upon which to build into this football match. And then, if it stays 0-0 for long periods, go and win it. Go and win the football match. And just banish any other thoughts in your head. Get a foothold in the game, suss out your opposition, and then see if you can use the likes of Tunekti and Ian Acho experience at the top level football and sneak that away goal. Sneak the goal that will get you a win. Away goals don't matter. Just go and get a win. I just hope that that's the way it plays out. I'm more travelling in hope than confidence, I have to say. I know the manager's confident, and he's trying to spread that message to the players. Well, I hope they're gaining that confidence from the manager, Ryan. Sorry, on you go.
No, absolutely, and completely fine. You can come in whenever you want with it. It's a three-man show. I want everybody to be speaking. Not at the same time, of course, but I want everybody to be contributing. Yeah, just to balance things out with Crvena Zvezda, I'll talk about their strengths as well, because Vladimir gave that as well. They have Mirko Ivanic, a midfielder who's been at the club for a very long time, and he's been turning into a legend as we speak. Nemanja Radonjic, who's previously played for Marseille and Torino, as well as Rade Krunic, who used to be an AC Milan player. So it seems as if their strengths are in midfield. Talking about their weaknesses in particular, he was talking about the fact that there's been a lot of change in their defence since the summer. They sold their 18-year-old defender to Bournemouth, whose name I'm not going to butcher because it's a bit of a difficult one to say, but they sold their 18-year-old centre-back who'd just made his way into the first team to Bournemouth for 10 million as sort of a replacement for Dean Huijsen over there at the Vitality Stadium, who's already doing well for Bournemouth. He says the club have a new goalkeeper, a couple of new central defenders and one new fullback. The club bought defenders to play counter-attacking football who are good in the air and have huge experience, but they are rather slow. Their lack of pace is a huge opportunity for Celtic because they have some pacey attackers, and if there is a clear way for Celtic to hurt Crvena Zvezda, it is in counter-attacks. The club are built to play defensively in Europe because they are mostly weaker than the opposition. They have a support that expects them to attack all the time, so it'll be a tough job for the defenders. They usually play in a 4-2-3-1 formation, but do not be surprised if they change to a 4-3-3 due to going through a lot of personnel changes recently. An expectant support that expects their team to be attacking most of the game. Graeme, who does that sound like in terms of tonight's game?
Yeah, it's just one of the other parallels between these sides. Like as soon as I landed, anyone I've spoken to, I've been really struck by the fact that what they're saying to me could easily just be a Celtic fan saying it to me, just with a different accent. It's incredible. I've seen in my piece last night. I don't know if they're bringing their own board protest tonight, but there certainly is unrest here at their team. Absolutely. So, yeah, and I think there is a real feeling here that domestic dominance. Again, this is obviously something that Celtic have experienced. Domestic dominance is not enough for these fans anymore. They've won 8 titles in a row, I think it is now. And just doing, well enough to beat Partizan is not good enough. Swap those names for Celtic and Rangers, and that's you. It's exactly the same scenario. So, yeah, it's a really interesting opportunity, I think, this for Celtic. You don't really know what to expect from. I'm going to keep saying Red Star, Ryan, because I can't pronounce that, but you don't really know what to expect and where they are. I think they're in a similar state of flux as to what maybe Celtic are, and it's almost who's going to be the team in transition that is adjusted quickly enough to handle this game. I don't know. I think it could either be, a really good 2-0 victory for Celtic, or it could be something really horrific like 4-5 the other way. But I think that the parallels between the club, you can't mistake them. It's two clubs in a very similar situation who are probably both underachieving.
Yeah. And, Tony, do you think that this sort of match-up could suit Celtic on the night, because there is an expectancy amongst the Red Star Belgrade fans, Crvena Zvezda, whatever you want to call them? I know what name you'll go with, but do you think it's good that there's that expectancy, and it might force the home side to actually come out and attack, which may leave spaces for Celtic when they counter, and if they can counter?
I think what Graeme and me have noticed that you've been practicing Crvena Zvezda's pronunciation. Yeah. Now listen, I think that's the one big hope that Celtic do have. Both teams are on a kind of similar keel, aren't they? And hopefully Celtic can take advantage of that. An expectant home crowd, as you say, and Celtic have to just stay in this game, Ryan, for as long as they can. That'd be my message. If I'm Brendan Rodgers, I'm saying to his players, right, they're going to come at you, because the same way Celtic go at teams at Celtic Park, just weather that, just play yourself into the game. And Celtic do have quality players that can hopefully pick them off. But again, when Celtic create chances in Europe, they sometimes go a begging, not casting any aspersions. Tyson Wider. But you know what I mean? So you have to be clinical, because every other team at European level seems to be clinical against Celtic. And also Celtic concede the kind of goals that other teams don't. I'm talking about the one in Munich, which was a real scrappy effort, wasn't it, that ended up knocking them out of the Champions League. Not marking Harry Kane at the back post at a corner. Just simple. The world-class basics, as we call them. But I just feel Celtic are prone to those kind of lapses in concentration. The one game where they didn't lapse in concentration was Atalanta. And then a wee bit more ambition would have won that 1-0. That's the kind of thing I want to see from Celtic tonight. If it's a kind of similar type game, I want to start turning these into wins, like they could have in Bergamo, like they could have in Munich. That's what I want to see from Celtic. That's when I know that progress that everybody's talking about is being made. But at this moment in time, this group of players and the way they're playing don't fill me with as much confidence as the manager has clearly has in them. But I'm willing to be converted on that, and hopefully I'm on the after-match podcast with you tonight, Ryan, saying, well, they well and truly surprised me with a performance for the ages.
That's the hope, and that's maybe not the expectation, but certainly the hope coming into the game, after the game, that Celtic have got a good result. They've done themselves proud in Belgrade, and they get a positive result, whether that be a point or all 3 points on the night. Just in terms of team selection, I know we'll be talking about the team in a little bit more detail in the pre and post match, but in terms of predicted lineups, I'll just go through it with the two of you. Kasper Schmeichel in goals. I know Sinisalo played at the weekend, but you'd expect the number one goalkeeper to come back into play. I think it's an unchanged or a full strength back four, and Liam Scales, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Kieran Tierney on the left, and Colby Donovan on the right. Are we thinking that Colby Donovan will start this game? I know, Graeme, you were saying last night that from the way that Brendan Rodgers was speaking, it would seem as if Colby Donovan will get thrown into this game, and he's got no qualms about throwing the youngster into the game because he's ready for it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, I can't second guess Brendan. He's not going to say, no, I don't think this young player can handle it. He's obviously going to back his man, but just the kind of unequivocal way that he said, I've got no hesitation whatsoever, and then he went on to really praise the maturity of Colby and his development, and the fact that he's mentioned his physicality and all these sort of things. I think, I think he's going to go with Colby Donovan. I'd be amazed if it's Tony Ralston.
Yeah, do you agree with all those defensive picks, Tony?
Without a doubt. Colby Donovan, I think you run the risk of stifling those qualities in him if you don't let him loose in this game. And listen, the only way you learn, and I'm not wishing him to make a mistake, but the only way you learn to cope at this level is by playing as many games as you can at this level. And if he plays and he does make a mistake, then fine, you dust yourself down. You'll not be the first and last to play in a game of this magnitude and make a mistake as a Celtic defender. But I hope that Brendan gives him the nod and the young lad comes through with flying colours, because he's earned his place in that Celtic team at this moment in time. Go and grasp the metal, go and grasp the opportunity. And I said on Sunday, he doesn't look out of place in the Celtic team, which is good, and a wonderful opportunity. And like Graeme, I agree. The way the manager answered that question, I think he has no qualms at all about throwing in Colby Donovan. Don't see it as a risk. I don't see it as a gamble. I think you build that young boy up so that by the time he's going out onto that pitch, he's thinking, this is my kind of, this is my kind of game. This is my kind of atmosphere. This is not a gamble. I'll show you why, and go and do your stuff, do what comes naturally to you. And he does. He's quite imposing. He's quite big. He's got the physicality. Like Dane Murray as well, he looks like a Celtic defender. He has the frame for it and the physique and the posture. So that's one thing that I would definitely agree with Graeme and yourself. And I would play Colby Donovan, because Tony Ralston has trained this week, hasn't he? And I just think
trained yesterday on Monday. Came back into training on Monday, but there was videos of him yesterday before he went to Belgrade. Just on the midfield, we touched upon it earlier, Graeme. You said that maybe potential for more physicality in the midfield. You could argue that maybe two of the spots are already spoken for when it comes to maybe with Rio Hatate, because you don't know if it's going to be Benjamin Negron or Rio Hatate, if Arne Engels is going to come into the side, or Paulo Bernardo. Brendan Rodgers might throw a bit of a surprise and put Bernardo in there because of what he can bring defensively, though I would be surprised at that. It would be a very big surprise if that was the case, given just with the way the amount of game time that he's had. Graeme, what are you thinking with the midfield? Who, I know you've mentioned Engels, but who would be coming out of that midfield to come in for Engels to come in?
I know Benjamin Nygren did the press last night, but that's no indication that he's playing, as we all know. I mean, Tony's probably done it himself. You write these big spreads pre-match with players, and then turns out they're on the bench or not in the squad. Exactly. So, no, but I would take Benjamin Negron out of that area. I'm not saying I would take him out of the team. We can probably discuss that in a wee minute. But my midfield three would be McGregor, Engels, and Hatate. That's who I would have. I think maybe dropping another midfielder deep beside Callum McGregor is kind of the blueprint that Brendan went with after Dortmund last year. And I think it worked really well, and I would have Engels in that role.
Yeah, Tony, we've spoken about this a number of times about Engels' actual position on the football pitch, and I think the two of us have agreed that we probably see him being a deeper player as his career progresses, maybe moving into the number 6 role. No, he's kind of playing in the number 8, and it's quite fluid between the midfield at this moment in time. But in terms of his maturity or him gaining football maturity, do you want him to be playing in that deeper role? Could that be a potential avenue for Brendan Rodgers tonight, that he plays him in the number 6 role and allows McGregor to go further forward, even though we've not seen it so far this season?
Yeah, I think it's certainly an option. I'm inclined to agree with Graeme in the sense that I want Engels in there for the physicality factor alone, even, and the defensive stuff that you say play as a 6. I'm giving Hatate the benefit of the doubt, but I just feel Hatate's been off it as well, and it's kind of, dead heat in the Zeppelin race between him and Negron's form at the minute. They've not been particularly great. Negron showed up slightly better on Sunday at Firhill with the 2 assists, but I think what was underestimated was Hatate's pass to Tinekti before Tinekti played to Iheanacho. Defence splitter, that's why he's there. But the problem with Hatate is, when they work, they're great. See, when they don't work, they put you under all sorts of pressure. And the manager's pointed that out many times, and he's put the team under all sorts of pressure, especially in Europe, by doing stuff like that. Don't want him to stop taking those risks, but he's got to make sure that his passing's on point, because he gives the ball away too cheaply and too often at this level, and you can be punished with that. That can happen to you in reverse. 1, 2, 3 passes, bang, it's a goal, you're conceding. So Hatate shades it, but I have to have a Hatate on point with his distribution and doing what comes naturally to him. if he's not, then in the games, in the European games to come, then his position for me is at risk. He's just gone right off the boil for me at the minute. But that pass on Sunday kind of justifies why you're in a Celtic team when you do that. But I'm allowing for the opposition, but it's still good vision to see that straight away, and he can do that at will. But he has to screw the nut, as they say, and be the guy that doesn't give the ball away, that the manager's not saying, he's careless at times.
Yeah, I think, Tony, I was going to say, Ryan, with Rio Hatate, I think there's got to be an acceptance that he's all sugar or all something else that I can't say on this family podcast, so, but he's the one man in the team that's got that sort of X factor, and I think when you're away from home in Europe, you need somebody who maybe be able to do that, and especially with Ryan was saying there, the expert on Red Star, if Celtic can exploit the counter-attack, then he's the man that you want picking up that ball and playing those forward passes and breaking the lines. I think he's the only one who's really shown a desire to do that this season. I know Callum's taking a bit of stick this year for not maybe playing the forward passes. I think Rio Hatate is the man who can do that, and you just have to put up with the fact that maybe 80% of the time he'll give it away, but that, the rest of the time when he does find that pass, it can split a defence,
For me, that's not good enough. He can't give it away.
Tony, and I'm going to defend Hatate here, Tony. You know what's coming. I know we've both got our players that we defend vigorously, but he is the player that can make a difference on these big nights for Celtic. I remember in particular the RB Leipzig game. He was massive in that game.
I agree with the two of you wholeheartedly, but I need that Hatate tonight. I can't have the one that gives it away 80% of the time.
You get it all. You get it all in the one game, mate.
You might get it all in 10 minutes of play. That's the sort of player that Hatate is, and that's probably why he's still at Celtic, and he's going to be turning 28 soon. But that's the risk that Celtic take when they play him, because it's a very much a risk and reward when it comes to Hatate, and more often than not, I would say in his career, he's rewarded Celtic with his forward play. But I think the Engels can play that counter-attacking as well, but a different kind compared to Hatate. Engels likes to have the ball, he likes to have a lot of time on the ball, and somebody that's calm in what is going to be a difficult atmosphere by all accounts is going to be important. And if he's got a little bit more time on the ball, he might not, but if he does have time, then I think he could unlock the Red Star Belgrade defence. Just touching on the forward line, I think there's a couple of decisions that Brendan Rodgers has to make. Daizen Maeda will start the game. I think it's more the question of where he's going to start tonight, especially with the likes of Sebastian Tenekti doing so well on the left-hand side. Does that mean that Daizen Maeda will play through the middle with Tenekti playing on the left, which then begs the question, who's going to start on the right? Will it be James Forrest? Will it be Yang? Will it be Michel-Ange Balikwisha playing out of position? There's a lot of questions to be answered there, Graeme. What do you think Brendan Rodgers is going to go for tonight? Sorry, it's a bit of about 3 or 4 questions and one there, but I trust you to deliver on that front.
That's all right, mate. I don't think Brendan will be tempted to put Niger in there again. I know that's an option, but I don't think he looks great there. And I think, especially with the young Colby player on the right, potentially, I think he might be tempted to put Daizen Maeda out there. I know that's a bit of a curveball, but I think just with his defensive work and he's running back, I think that's something he might do to help out the young kid. Listen, I won't be surprised. He's got all sorts of configurations he can go with there. I think also there's a case for putting Daizen through the middle. I'm not sure Kelechi Iheanacho is ready to start a game away from home in Europe. I'm not 100% sure on that. But if it was me, and thankfully for Celtic supporters it's not, I would put Daizen on the right just to kind of help out Colby Donovan and just have that, defensive sort of skill, a defensive skill set in front of him.
Disagree, Graeme. I'm going Chinekti and Mike. Chinekti on the left, Maeda on the right, Kelechi through the middle. Because the one thing I noticed about Kelechi on Sunday was his layoffs. They were spot on. Your hold-up play, your experience. This is what you need tonight. You need somebody like Kelechi. See if he's not scoring, at least affect the play. And he's 1-2 with Chinekti for the goal against Thistle was exquisite. Don't care that the opposition was part of Thistle. You're taking out any team if you can get those connections. And I think that the more they play, the more they'll do it. And I think this is ideal tonight. I agree wholeheartedly with Maeda on the right to protect Donovan. I think that's that to me makes perfect sense. But Kelechi through the middle, because this guy's capable of scoring goals. He's got a calibre and a pedigree. And I think if Tunekti can play the way he's played the past couple of games, and bring that form to the European scene, then you will create problems. And for me, I think this game's right for those three that I've said there. Again, find your difference of opinion, that's fine, take that on board. But Tunekti on the left, Maida on the right, Kelechi through the middle, because I think that's where Celtic will get joy in an attacking sense. And I think they have to be clinical tonight if those chances come along. And I would prefer to see Kelechi through the middle rather than Maida for obvious reasons.
It's a good point you make about the. So it's a good point that you make about the link-up play, and I thought that Tunetki's goal, the finish was great, but the pass made the goal. It essentially gives Tunetki not an easy chance, but it makes his path clear, and it's a good finish from the Tunisian winger. But Kelechi Iheanacho uses all of his experience, all of his know-how to get that ball through, and I think that that little passage of play is something that's been missing in Celtic's play over the past year, maybe 6 months. I know Kyogo got 19 assists, and I did call him a link-up striker on Twitter, and I did get a little bit of criticism for that. He did link up with some of the players, but he was a better link-up player than Ademida, because he could actually do that side of the job. But it looks as if with Iheanacho, the club have a guy that they can rely on to hold up the ball and pass it to the wingers, which could be a big advantage for Celtic tonight, especially counter-attacking and away from home when they're looking for runners to get beyond Iheanacho, because he's not the quickest. I think that was clear on Sunday against Partick Thistle. Yes, he can motor, but he's not naturally pacey, but he can hold the ball up and he can play passes through to the men that want to get further forward. So that could be an area for Celtic to really exploit Red Star tonight. Would you agree, Graeme?
Yeah, I think so. I totally take that point on board about Iheanacho. I think that it was really interesting. Tony was there as well at Firhill on Sunday when Sebastian Tunetki spoke to us after the game and was speaking about his link up with Kelechi. And it's one of those things, if you have good players playing together, they're going to link up very quickly, And I don't want to get carried away, because obviously Tunetki's only played a couple of games and he's only played alongside Iheanacho for maybe an hour or maybe one game and a half maybe. But I thought there was real sort of glimpses that there could be something there between the two of them. And also for Iheanacho, in fairness to him, I think the sort of reports coming out of Seville when he signed, where that he might take months to get up to speed, I think he's a lot further on than maybe a lot of people expected, and he's contributed more already than I maybe expected at this point. So I'll maybe not be surprised to see him get in. I think there is a definite case for keeping that link between Tunetki and Iheanacho in the team, and trying to use that as much as possible, because two good players, and as much as Celtic's attacking line, there's been a lot of worries about it and a lot of gnashing of teeth and wailing over the summer about this area of the team. I think actually, if you look at that three that Tony mentioned, if you have, Maeda on the right, Tunetki on the left, and Iheanacho up front, that's quite exciting. Dare I even say it?
Yeah, would agree.
You've covered a lot of these games Celtic away. The one thing that has to happen tonight is when it goes to the attacking third, is the ball has to stick. It can't keep coming back, And I just think that somebody like Iheanacho, again, someone with a bit of brute strength and force and a bit of physicality, he can't hold it up. And if you've got if you've got Maeda and Tunekti on either side, he's got outballs here. He's got people that can play it, but it has to stick. And that was a big criticism of Ida, wasn't it? He had some decent performance in Europe, but it was that hold-up play, that link-up play that seemed to be non-existent. At times it would bounce off him and stuff like that, and his first touch wasn't great. So I think there's just a wee bit more comfort and security with Iheanacho there, in my own opinion. But hey, the manager will probably just throw that up in the air and put Dies and Maeda through the middle and Balakusha on the right and Tunekti on the left. So, and I'll be like, what do I know? But that would be my favourite trio. You know what I mean? So yeah. thinking about it.
I think regardless of the team that Brendan Rodgers picks, it's going to be interesting because that's the one that he's picked to do the job in Belgrade tonight. I realise it's been a little bit of a longer show today, guys. Thank you very much for bearing with us, to the 400 or so people that are watching at this present moment. Quickly before we finish off today, guys, I'm gonna come round to you. I know that you're on the pre-match show, Graeme, but Tony, we'll be speaking after the match. What is your prediction for tonight?
Oh, okay. And having been completely and utterly negative about Celtic's chances throughout the job, people remind me, I'm going to flip that on its head and say Celtic 2-1. Go on, I'll be positive. I'll end with a positive note, eh? There you go.
Are you, Graeme, are you wanting to keep your prediction until the pre-match show, or potentially maybe your prediction could change as the day progresses? I know that I certainly get more nervous as a game gets closer and closer, but do you want to give us an early prediction before you give your main one later on?
Yeah, well, when I landed here, I thought maybe Red Star would win. Now I think Celtic are going to win 1-0. Maybe by the pre-show, I'll think 3-0, who knows? But no, I think it's all about how they defend tonight for me, and then if they can get a base and then hit in the counter, maybe nick a goal later on. Yeah, I just think Celtic, they need a result here to get the fans going, and I think they're going to get it.
Well, fingers crossed that's the case, and hopefully you can bring us all good luck, Graeme, tonight. You'll be on the pre-match show, Tony, you'll be on the post-match show with myself, so we'll all be on the channel later on this evening, one way or another. Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Graeme, for coming on this morning. Once again, a massive thank you to Simply Furniture for sponsoring this video. All of the links are in the description. You'll get a discount if you mention our name, if you choose to do business with them. We'll be back about an hour or so before the game tonight, as well as on the full-time whistle, to discuss what transpires in Belgrade between Celtic and Crvena Zvezda. I can tell I've been doing some practicing on that one. Until then, guys, until the later shows tonight, have a very good day, and yeah, it's match day in the Europa League. Cheers.